Tranquil Tales for Sleep, How Ancient Mali Traders Navigated by Starlight. Hey guys! Tonight we're slipping into the warm, endless sands of the Mali Empire, where the night sky isn't just a view, it's a map, a story, and a lifeline for traders crossing the Sahel. Picture yourself standing on a dune, the air thick with the scent of dust and distant spices, stars twinkling above like a cosmic ledger of gold and salt. You're surrounded by the soft shuffle of camels and the low hum of voices bartering in a tongue you don't quite catch. It's the 13th century, and you're about to join a caravan navigating by starlight. Honestly, with your modern GPS-dependent self, you probably wouldn't last a night out here without getting lost and crying for Wi-Fi. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love picturing you all cozy under your blankets. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing at the edge of a sprawling desert, where the Mali Empire's trade routes stretch like veins across the Sahel, pulsing with wealth and ambition. The sun's just deep indigo, speckled with stars that feel close enough to pluck. You squint, trying to make sense of them, but to the traders around you, these are road signs, as clear as any neon-lit highway. The Mali Empire, at its peak in the 13th and 14th centuries, was a powerhouse, its wealth built on gold, salt, and the ingenuity of people who could read the heavens like a book. You're not just in a desert, you're in a bustling corridor of commerce where caravans move goods from the forests of West Africa to the markets of North Africa and beyond. The air's cooling fast, and you pull your rough-woven cloak tighter, feeling the grit of sand between your toes. It's not exactly a spa day, but there's a strange calm in the rhythm of this place. You notice the traders, their faces lit by flickering torchlight, checking their packs with a practiced ease. They're not rushing. Nobody rushes in the desert at night. It's all slow, deliberate, like they're syncing their breaths with the pulse of the stars. You catch a whiff of roasted millet from a nearby fire, and someone hands you a flatbread that's tougher than your last attempt at sourdough. You nibble it, wondering how anyone chews this without losing a tooth. The traders, though, they're used to it. This is just another night on the job. They're carrying gold dust in leather pouches, salt slabs wrapped in cloth, and even the occasional bundle of cola nuts, which, let's be honest, were the energy drinks of their day. You try one, and it's bitter enough to make you regret every life choice that led you here. One trader, a wiry man with a beard that's seen better days, catches your eye and gestures upward. He's pointing at a cluster of stars, muttering something about the Great Camel, a constellation you've never heard of. You tilt your head trying to see a camel in the twinkling mess, but it just looks like someone spilled glitter on a navy blanket. He chuckles at your confusion, probably thinking you're the kind of person who'd get lost in a parking lot. The Malians, though, they've been navigating by stars for generations, long before compasses or maps were a thing. Historians still debate exactly how they pinpointed routes with such precision, but the oral traditions passed down by griots, storytellers who were basically the human equivalent of Wikipedia, suggest a mix of star patterns and memorized landmarks. Here's a weird little tidbit. Some traders believed certain stars were spirits of their ancestors guiding them through the desert. You glance up again, half expecting to see a ghostly face winking back, but it's just you, the sand, and a sky that's starting to feel like an old friend. The traders don't just follow stars, they tell stories about them, weaving myths into their routes. It's like they're saying, turn left at the Star of the Lost Goat and you'll hit Timbuktu by dawn. You smirk, imagining trying to explain that to your navigation app. The night's deepening now, and the caravan's starting to move, camels grumbling like they're already over this trip. You fall into step, your sandals sinking into the sand, ready to see where these stars will lead you next.
You're trudging along now, your sandals kicking up little puffs of sand that cling to your calves like overly clingy pets. The caravan stretches ahead, a line of swaying camels loaded with goods, their silhouettes dark against the starlit horizon. It's dusk, and the Mali traders are prepping for the long haul across the Sahel. You're not sure how they stay so calm, knowing they've got days of this ahead. Days of heat, sand, and the occasional cranky camel spitting in your general direction. You dodge one such camel, its breath smelling like a mix of hay and regret, and you wonder if your modern deodorant would have been a hot commodity here. Probably worth more than gold, honestly. The traders are busy tightening straps, checking water skins, and murmuring to their camels in a tone that's half soothing, half "don't you dare slow us down." You notice the lead trader, the same wiry guy from before, adjusting a massive salt slab on a camel's back. Salt, you learn, is the white gold of the desert, sometimes traded ounce for ounce with the shiny stuff. In the 13th century, the Mali Empire's wealth wasn't just in its gold mines, it was in controlling the flow of salt from Saharan mines to the south. You tried to imagine explaining to your friends that you're hauling a giant salt rock across a desert for a living. They'd probably think you'd lost it. Here's something odd. These traders don't just pack light, they pack smart. Each camel carries exactly what it can handle, balanced to avoid a lopsided disaster. You watch one trader meticulously weigh a sack of cola nuts against a clay pot, muttering calculations under his breath. It's like watching someone solve a math problem in a language you don't speak, and you're half convinced he's just making it up. But no, this precision kept the Mali trade routes humming. Historians still argue over how they standardized weights across such vast distances without, a trusty kitchen scale or an app. You're handed a water skin, and it's heavier than it looks, sloshing with a sound that's weirdly comforting in this dry expanse. You take a sip, expecting something refreshing, but it's warm and tastes faintly of leather, like drinking from an old boot. You grimace, and a nearby trader laughs, his teeth glinting in the torchlit. "City folk," he seems to say, though you don't catch the words. You're starting to get the rhythm of this caravan, though. The camels plod along, their hoofs making a soft thud-thud that's almost hypnotic. You glance up, and the stars are brighter now, like someone turned up the dimmer switch on the sky. The traders keep stealing glances at them, their eyes flicking between the horizon and the heavens. A younger trader, barely older than a teenager, points out a star low on the horizon, calling it the Trader's Needle. You squint, trying to see what's so special, but to you, it's just another twinkly dot. He explains, in a mix of gestures and broken phrases, that it's a key marker for heading toward Timbuktu. You nod, pretending you get it, but you're mostly wondering how anyone remembers this stuff without a notebook or, like, a sticky note on their camel. The Malians, though, they've got it down to an art. Their navigation isn't just about stars, it's about trusting the desert's rhythm, the way the sand shifts, the way the air smells before a breeze kicks up. You stumble over a rock, catching yourself just in time, and the young trader snickers. Great. Now you're the caravan's comic relief. You brush it off, focusing on the soft glow of lanterns swinging from the camels' packs. The light dances on the sand, creating shadows that look like they're telling their own stories. You're starting to feel the weight of the journey, not just in your legs, but in the quiet vastness of the desert. It's like the world's holding its breath, waiting for the next star to guide you forward.
You're settling into the caravan's rhythm now, your steps syncing with the camel's steady plod. The night air's crisp, carrying the faint scent of dried herbs from someone's pack. Probably not your modern lavender diffuser, but it's doing the trick. You're still clutching that leathery water skin, trying not to spill it as you weave between the beasts. Up ahead, an older man with a voice like warm honey starts speaking, his words rising and falling like a lullaby. He's a griot, the caravan's storyteller, and you're about to get a front-row seat to his performance. You're half expecting him to pull out a PowerPoint, but instead he just points at the stars, his hands tracing shapes in the air. The griot's telling a story about the Great Camel, that constellation you couldn't make heads or tails of earlier. You listen, your head tilted back, as he explains how it guided Mali's traders across the Sahel for centuries. His voice is so soothing, you almost forget you're in a desert, not your cozy bed with a white noise machine. The Mali Empire, he says, relied on these oral tales to pass down navigation tricks, like a cosmic GPS encoded in stories. You smirk, imagining trying to pitch that to a tech startup. Forget satellites, just memorize a 500-verse poem about stars. Good luck with that. Here's a quirky fact. Some griots claimed the stars moved slightly each generation, nudged by the spirits of old traders. You glance up, half wondering if that sparkly dot just winked at you, but it's probably just your eyes playing tricks. Historians still debate how much of these tales were astronomy versus mythology, but the griots didn't care, they just knew it worked. You're starting to see why. The way the griot weaves his story, pointing at stars like he's conducting an orchestra, makes the sky feel alive, like it's whispering directions just for you. You shuffle closer, the sand cool under your feet, and catch a glimpse of the griot's face lined with years of desert nights. He's describing how traders used the trader's needle to find water sources, a trick that saved countless caravans from turning into sun-baked history lessons. You're impressed, but also a little jealous. Your only navigation skill is yelling at your phone when it reroutes you through a sketchy alleyway. The griot pauses, offering you a sip of something that smells like fermented millet. You take a polite sip, and it's like drinking a campfire. You cough, and he chuckles, his eyes crinkling like he's heard that sound 1,000 times. The caravan's moving slower now, the camels grumbling as they navigate a rocky patch. You're trying not to trip again, your earlier stumbles still fresh in everyone's memory, and you're not keen on being the caravan's running gag. The griot's story shifts to a tale of a lost trader who followed the wrong star and ended up at an oasis that didn't exist. You laugh, thinking of the time you followed a GPS signal into a dead-end street, but out here, the stakes are higher. No Uber to save you in the Sahel. The griot's voice dips lower, almost a whisper, as he describes how the trader's spirit still lingers in the stars, guiding others to safety. You look up, the sky a velvet canvas, and for a moment you swear you see that great camel, or maybe it's just the millet drink talking. Either way, the griot's words are sinking into you, heavy and warm, like a blanket you didn't know you needed. The caravan stretches on, and you're starting to feel like you belong here, under this endless sky, with nothing but stories and stars to guide you. You're still trailing the caravan, the griot's voice fading into the soft crunch of sand underfoot. The stars are brighter now, like someone cranked up the cosmic brightness, and you're heading toward Timbuktu, the Mali Empire's beating heart of trade. You can almost feel the city before you see it, a hum of voices, the tang of spices in the air, and the faint glow of lanterns flickering like fireflies. You're not there yet, but the traders' pace quickens, their chatter growing livelier, like they're already spending their profits in their heads. You, meanwhile, are just trying not to trip over another rock. Your reputation as the caravan's klutz is still a sore point. Timbuktu's night market comes into view, sprawling under the starlit sky like a pop-up bazaar from a dream. You're hit with a wave of scents, roasted cola nuts, dried fish, and something sweet you can't quite place. Maybe dates, maybe wishful thinking. Traders are haggling over salt slabs and gold dust, their voices a low, rhythmic hum that's oddly soothing, like a podcast you'd fall asleep to. This market in the 13th century was the Amazon prime of its day, a hub where goods from across Africa and beyond changed hands. You try to explain this to your friends. Yeah, it's like eBay, but with camels and no free shipping. They'd probably just blink at you. Here's a strange tidbit. Some traders used cowrie shells as currency, tossing them into piles like they're playing an ancient version of poker chips. You pick one up, its smooth surface cool against your palm, and wonder how many shells it'd take to buy a decent latte back home. Historians still argue over how Timbuktu's market stayed so organized without, like, a spreadsheet or a single barcode scanner. You watch a trader weigh a gold nugget against a feather, his focus intense, and you're half convinced he's just showing off. You try mimicking him, balancing a pebble on your finger, and promptly drop it. A nearby kid giggles, and you're starting to think you're the comic relief for the entire Sahel. You weave through the stalls, your cloak brushing against bolts of dyed cloth, blues and golds that shimmer under the lanterns. A woman offers you a handful of roasted locusts, and you hesitate, wondering if this is the medieval equivalent of kale chips. You take one, crunching cautiously, and it's not terrible. Like a nutty protein bar with a side of existential crisis. The market's alive with stories, each trader adding to the hum. A man boasting about his trek from Gao, a woman whispering about a new gold vein. You catch fragments of their talk, piecing together how Timbuktu wasn't just a market, it was a crossroads of cultures, where Berbers, Arabs, and Songhai mingled under the same stars. You pause by a stall selling tiny clay figurines, each one carved with patterns that look like constellations. The vendor, an old man with eyes like the desert night, says they're charms for safe travels, blessed by the stars. You slip one into your pocket, feeling a little superstitious, and wonder if it'd help you find your car keys back home. The market's rhythm is pulling you in, its sounds blending into a soft, hypnotic drone. You glance up, the stars still watching, and realize you're not just passing through Timbuktu, you're part of its pulse, carried by the same starlight that's guided traders for centuries.
You're lingering at the edge of Timbuktu's night market, the buzz of haggling fading as you follow the caravan back into the desert's quiet embrace. The air's cooler now, brushing your skin like a whispered secret, and the stars above are so sharp they feel like they could prick you if you reached out. The traders are moving again, their camels loaded with fresh goods, salt, cloth, and those cola nuts you're still not sure about. You're clutching that clay figurine in your pocket, its constellation carvings pressing into your palm, and you're wondering if it's actually lucky or just a fancy paperweight. The wiry lead trader, the one with the beard that's seen better days, beckons you over, pointing at the sky with a grin that says he knows something you don't. He's teaching you how to read the stars, and you're trying hard not to look like the kid who failed astronomy in school. The Malian traders, he explains, don't just follow constellations. They use them like a living map, passed down through generations. He points to a cluster called the Weaver's Loom, its stars forming a faint diamond shape. You squint, half expecting it to look like your grandma's knitting basket, but it's just a bunch of twinkly dots. Still, you nod, hoping you look wiser than you feel. The Malians' navigation system, honed in the 13th century, relied on these patterns, paired with landmarks like dunes or gnarled acacia trees. You're impressed, but also wondering how they didn't just scribble this stuff down on a post-it note. Here's something wild. Some traders swore the stars shifted slightly depending on the season, a fact they used to time their journeys. You glance up, trying to spot any sneaky star movement, but it's like trying to catch your cat plotting world domination. Good luck. Historians still debate how much of this was precise astronomy versus oral tradition's poetic flair, but it got caravans to Timbuktu without a single recalculating route meltdown. The trader hands you a stick, gesturing for you to trace the weaver's loom in the sand. You draw a wobbly shape, and he laughs, his voice a low rumble that blends with the desert's hum. You're starting to think your sand art career isn't taking off anytime soon. You're walking again, the caravan's pace slow and steady, like a heartbeat you can feel through the sand. The trader points out another star, the Salt Carrier, low on the horizon, guiding you toward a distant oasis. You try to memorize its position, but your brain's already overloaded, like a phone with too many open tabs. You're distracted by the smell of dust and camel fur, and the soft clink of cowrie shells in a trader's pouch. You fumble with your own pouch, nearly dropping it, and a nearby camel gives you a look that screams, "Get it together, newbie!" You're starting to suspect the camels are judging you more than the traders are. The night's deepening, and the stars seem to pulse with a rhythm that matches the caravan's steps. You're learning to spot the weaver's loom without squinting, and it feels like a small victory, like finally figuring out how to parallel park. The trader claps your shoulder, his hand rough as sandpaper, and says something in a language you don't catch, but his grin tells you you're not a total lost cause. You're starting to feel the desert's pull, its vastness wrapping around you like a blanket. The stars aren't just lights anymore, they're guides, stories, and maybe even a little magic, leading you deeper into the Mali Empire's starlit world.
You're plodding along with the caravan now. The weaver's loom twinkling above like a celestial road sign you're finally starting to recognize. The desert air's sharp, tickling your nose with the faint scent of salt and dried grass, and you're clutching that clay figurine in your pocket like it's your last link to sanity. The traders are quieter now, their focus on the horizon where the salt carrier star hangs low, guiding you toward a trading post. You're still marveling at how they navigate this endless sea of sand without a single app crashing. You, on the other hand, would probably be begging Siri for help by now, only to get a smug, "I'm sorry, I don't understand, lost in the Sahel." The caravan halts at a clearing, just a flat stretch of sand with a few scraggly bushes that look like they gave up on life centuries ago. You're about to ask why you've stopped when you see the traders begin a strange ritual. They're setting up for the silent barter, a hallmark of Mali's gold salt trade in the 13th century. No shouting, no haggling, just goods laid out under the stars, waiting for another group to respond. You watch as they arrange salt slabs in neat rows, like they're staging an Instagram-worthy picnic, but with way less avocado toast. You're tempted to nudge a slab just to see if it's as heavy as it looks, but the wiry trader's glare stops you. You're not about to become the guy who ruins a centuries-old tradition. Here's something bizarre. The silent barter wasn't just quiet, it was anonymous. Traders from different regions, sometimes strangers, would leave goods and signal with drums or fires, then vanish into the night to avoid face-to-face haggling. You imagine trying this at a modern flea market, just dropping off your old couch and hoping someone leaves a fair trade in Beanie Babies. Historians still puzzle over how trust was maintained in these exchanges, with no contracts or Yelp reviews to keep anyone honest. You crouch by a pile of gold dust, its faint shimmer catching the starlight, and wonder how anyone resisted sneaking a pinch. A trader hands you a small gourd, and you peer inside to find cola nuts, their bitter scent hitting you like a whiff of expired coffee. You pass, remembering your last encounter with that fermented millet drink. Your taste buds are still recovering. The traders, though, are chewing the nuts like they're the secret to surviving the desert, and you're starting to think they might be onto something. You notice a faint drumbeat in the distance, a low thrum that feels like the desert's pulse. It's the signal for the other group to check the goods. You're half expecting a dramatic showdown, but it's just silence, the kind that makes you want to whisper just to hear your own voice. You sit on the sand, your legs aching from all this walking, and watch the traders adjust their offerings with the precision of a chef plating a Michelin-starred dish. A camel snorts nearby, and you swear it's giving you side-eye, like it knows you're still the caravan's weak link. You pat its flank, hoping to make peace, but it just flicks its tail like you're an annoying fly. The stars above are steady, their light pooling on the sand, and you're starting to feel the weight of this quiet exchange. It's not just trade, it's a dance, a trust built under the same stars that guide you, pulling you deeper into the Mali Empire's rhythm.
You're still crouched in the sand, the silent barter's eerie calm wrapping around you like a heavy blanket. The stars are blazing now, the salt carrier dipping lower, urging the caravan toward an oasis just beyond the horizon. You're starting to feel the desert's rhythm in your bones, the soft crunch of your sandals blending with the camel's steady plod. The air smells of dust and something faintly sweet like overripe fruit, and you're clutching that constellation-carved figurine in your pocket, half convinced it's keeping you from wandering off into a dune. You're not sure how the traders stay so focused. You'd probably be checking your phone for a signal out here, only to realize there's no 4G in the 13th century. The caravan reaches the oasis, a cluster of date palms and a small shimmering pool that looks like it's straight out of a travel brochure, minus the overpriced cocktails. The traders dismount, their movements slow and deliberate, like they're savoring the moment. You're expecting them to dive into the water, or at least splash their faces, but instead they start a quiet ritual, kneeling by the pool under the starlight. They're murmuring something, their voices blending into a low hum that's more soothing than your favorite sleep playlist. This oasis, you learn, isn't just a pit stop. It's a sacred spot where Mali traders in the 13th century gave thanks to the spirits of the desert and the stars. You try to look reverent, but you're mostly wondering if you can sneak a sip of that water without offending anyone. Here's a curious fact. Some traders believed the oasis waters were blessed by starlight, giving them strength for the journey. You dip your fingers in the pool, half expecting a magical glow, but it's just cold and slightly gritty like drinking from a garden hose. Historians still debate whether these rituals were purely spiritual or a clever way to boost morale during grueling treks, but either way, it's working. You're feeling oddly calm. You sit back, watching a trader sprinkle sand into the water as an offering, his hands moving with the grace of someone who's done this 1,000 times. You try mimicking him, tossing a pinch of sand, and it lands in your hair. A nearby trader snickers, and you're starting to accept your role as the caravan's
unintentional jester. The camels are tethered now, munching on sparse grass with an enthusiasm that makes you jealous. You're handed a date, sticky and sweet, and you bite into it, the flavor bursting like a sugar bomb. It's a far cry from the cola nuts you politely declined earlier, and you're wondering why nobody's marketing these as the ultimate desert snack. The traders are sharing stories now, their voices soft against the rustle of palm fronds. One mentions a star called the Oasis Keeper, said to hover over water sources. You look up, trying to spot it, but the sky is a dizzying map of lights, and you're no closer to cracking its code than you were to assembling that IKEA shelf last month. The ritual ends with a final chant, and the traders settle around the pool, some stretching out on woven mats. You lie back too, the sand cool against your back, and stare at the stars. They feel closer now, like they're leaning in to tell you a secret. The caravan's quiet, save for the occasional camel grunt, and you're sinking into the moment. The oasis is calm, washing over you like a tide. You're not just resting, you're part of something ancient, tied to the stars and the sand, ready to follow their light to whatever comes next.
You still sprawled by the oasis, the cool sand cradling you like a slightly gritty hammock, the stars above twinkling as if they're gossiping about your clumsy sand-tossing earlier. The traders are packing up now, their movements slow and deliberate, like they're savoring the last moments of this watery haven. The air smells of damp earth and date palms, a stark contrast to the dry dust you've been breathing for hours. You're clutching that constellation-carved figurine, its edges worn smooth, and you're half convinced it's the only thing keeping you from wandering off like that lost trader in the griot story. Your legs ache, and you're wondering how these traders don't just collapse and demand a spa day after all this trekking. The caravan's moving again, camels grumbling as they're loaded with goods, salt slabs, gold pouches, and those cola nuts you're still avoiding like a bad Tinder date. You notice the wiry lead trader scanning the horizon, his eyes flicking to the stars like he's double-checking a text message. He's not just relying on the weaver's loom or the salt carrier, he's watching the camels themselves. You learn that in the Mali Empire, these animals were more than pack mules. They were living compasses. Their instincts, honed by generations of desert travel, could sense water or shifting sands better than any star map. You glance at the nearest camel, its beady eyes glaring back, and you're pretty sure it's judging your inability to keep up. You whisper an apology, half expecting it to roll its eyes. Here's something odd. Some traders believed camels could smell the stars, aligning their steps with celestial cues. You sniff the air, hoping for a whiff of cosmic magic, but all you get is camel breath and a hint of your own regret for not packing better sandals. Historians still debate how much of this was animal instinct versus the trader's own projections, but the camel's role was undeniable. They were the unsung heroes of the Sahel. You watch one camel pause, its head tilting toward a dune, and the trader adjusts course slightly, muttering thanks to the beast. You're impressed, but also wondering if your cat back home could navigate your apartment with half this skill. You're handed a woven strap to lead a camel, and you grip it like it's the last lifeline in a zombie apocalypse. The beast lumbers forward, tugging you along, and you're trying not to look like you're auditioning for a slapstick comedy. The trader chuckles, his beard twitching, and offers you a strip of dried meat that smells suspiciously like your gym bag. You nibble it cautiously, and it's chewy enough to make you question your dental insurance. The caravan's rhythm is hypnotic now, the soft thud of hoofs blending with the whisper of sand.
You glance up at the stars, the weaver's loom still faintly visible, and feel a strange connection, like you're not just following a route, but part of a living map. The traders are humming now, a low tune that feels like it's been carried across centuries. You try to hum along, but your pitch is off, and a camel snorts, clearly unimpressed. You're starting to think these animals have a better sense of humor than you do. The night stretches on, the stars guiding you toward the next stop, and you're sinking deeper into the desert's pulse. It's not just about getting from A to B. It's about trusting the camels, the stars, and the quiet wisdom of this ancient trade route. You adjust your grip on the strap, the camel's warmth steadying you, and let the starlight pull you forward. You're still stumbling along behind your camel, its swaying gait making you feel like you're on a boat with no Dramamine in sight. The stars are your only constant. The weaver's loom and salt carrier glowing like old friends who know you're bad at directions but stick around anyway. The air's crisp, carrying the faint scent of dust and something sharp, like crushed herbs from a trader's pouch. You're still gripping that constellation-carved figurine, its edges now as familiar as your phone's home button, and you're wondering if it's secretly laughing at your attempt to lead this camel. You give the beast a tentative pat, and it snorts, probably rating your performance a solid 2 out of 10. The caravan pauses on a flat stretch of sand, the traders gathering in a loose circle under the starlight. You watch as the wiry lead trader kneels, dragging a stick through the sand to sketch a rough map of the night sky. It's not just doodling. These are star charts, temporary guides for the next leg of the journey. In the 13th century, Mali traders used these fleeting diagrams, erased by the wind by morning, to confirm their routes. You crouch beside him, trying to look like you understand, but it's like deciphering your own handwriting after a late-night study session. You trace a wobbly line in the sand, hoping it's the salt carrier, and the trader's chuckle tells you it's more like a drunk comet. Here's a peculiar tidbit. Some traders added tiny pebbles to their sand charts, each one representing a star's weight in their navigation lore. You pick up a pebble, rolling it between your fingers, and wonder if it's got cosmic powers or if it's just a rock with delusions of grandeur. Historians still argue over how these sand charts varied between Mali's regions, but they were precise enough to keep caravans on track. You're tempted to add your own pebble, but you're pretty sure you'd mess up the whole cosmic vibe. Instead, you watch the trader point to a star cluster, muttering about an oasis 2 days away. You nod, pretending you're not internally panicking about your lack of survival skills. The camels are restless, pawing the sand like they're ready to move before you accidentally ruin the map. You step back, nearly tripping over a stray rope, and a young trader grins, offering you a dried date. It's sweet, sticky, and a welcome break from that leathery meat you're still recovering from. You chew slowly, the flavor grounding you, as the traders erase their sand chart, leaving no trace for rivals to follow. It's like watching someone delete their browser history, methodical and a little paranoid. You're starting to get why trust is such a big deal out here. One wrong move, and you're lost in a sea of dunes with no camel yelp to save you. The caravan moves on, the stars guiding you like a cosmic GPS that never needs an update. You're clutching the camel's strap, trying to match its rhythm, but your legs feel like they're auditioning for a role as jelly. The traders' voices are low, their chatter blending with the desert's hum, and you're sinking into the night's calm. The sand chart's gone, but its image lingers in your mind, a fleeting map tied to the stars above. You glance up, the weaver's loom winking at you, and feel a quiet thrill, like you're not just following a path, but weaving your own story into the Mali Empire's starlit legacy. You're trudging through the sand again, the caravan's rhythm lulling you like a metronome set to chill. The stars are still your guides, the weaver's loom and salt carrier shining like cosmic post-it notes reminding you not to wander off. The air's dry, with a faint whiff of camel fur and something earthy, like the memory of that oasis you left behind. You're still clutching that constellation-carved figurine, its weight a small comfort as you try to keep up with your camel, who's clearly unimpressed with your leadership skills. You give it a hopeful pat, and it flicks its tail like it's swatting away your dreams of being a desert pro. The caravan's path converges with another group, their silhouettes emerging from the dunes like a mirage with attitude. These are Songhai traders, rivals to the Mali Empire in the 13th century, and you can feel the tension ripple through your group. It's not a showdown, but the air's thick with side-eye, like two cliques meeting at a high school cafeteria. The Songhai traders are using the same stars, your stars, to navigate, their own version of the weaver's loom guiding them toward Timbuktu. You're caught in the middle, trying not to stare as your wiry lead trader exchanges a curt nod with their leader. You're half expecting a dramatic standoff, but it's just business, desert style, with more grunts than words. Here's a strange twist. The Songhai sometimes marked their routes with small stone cairns, hidden under sand to avoid detection by rivals like your Mali crew. You spot a faint pile of rocks, barely visible, and wonder if it's a Songhai GPS or just a random pile you're overthinking. Historians still debate how much the Mali and Songhai navigation systems overlapped, but the rivalry pushed both to refine their star-reading skills. You try to look casual, kicking at the sand to see if you can uncover another cairn, but all you get is a dusty sandal and a disapproving snort from your camel. You're starting to think this beast has a personal vendetta. The caravan traders from both groups keep their distance, their camels forming parallel lines like lanes on a highway nobody trusts. You're handed a strip of dried fish, its smell hitting you like a wave of regret, but you nibble it to be polite. It's salty enough to make you dream of that oasis water, gritty or not. You notice the Songhai traders glancing at the stars, their leader pointing at a cluster you don't recognize. Your trader mutters something about copycats, and you stifle a laugh imagining a 13th century copyright dispute over constellations. The desert's quiet, but the rivalry hums beneath it, like static you can't quite tune out. You're keeping pace now, your legs less wobbly, though you're still no match for the camel's effortless swagger. The Songhai caravan peels off toward a different dune, their lanterns fading into the night, and you feel a strange relief. Your trader claps your shoulder, his grin saying you've survived another desert drama. You glance up at the stars, the weaver's loom steady as ever, and feel a tug of loyalty to your Mali crew. The sand stretches ahead, the night wrapping you in its cool embrace, and you're sinking deeper into this starlit journey, rivalries and all, ready for whatever the desert throws at you next. You're back in the caravan's sway, the stars above, like a ceiling of fairy lights that never flicker out. The Songhai traders are gone, their lanterns just a memory swallowed by the dunes, and your Mali crew seems to exhale, the tension easing like a knot slowly unraveling. The air's sharper now, carrying a faint chill and the scent of sand that's been baking all day. You're still gripping that constellation-carved figurine, its edges practically molded to your palm, and you're trying not to trip over your own sandals as you keep up with your camel. That beast is still giving you the stink eye, like it's personally offended by your existence. You mutter an apology under your breath, half expecting it to demand a written one. A low whistle cuts through the night, and you feel the traders tense, their heads tilting toward the horizon. The wind's picking up, stirring the sand into little eddies that sting your ankles like tiny, grumpy bees. The wiry lead trader squints at the stars, his face creased with focus, and you realize he's not just navigating, he's reading the weather. In the 13th century, Mali traders used the stars not only for direction, but to predict desert storms, watching for subtle shifts in their brightness or haze. You look up, trying to spot what he sees, but it's like trying to guess the weather from your weather app's cryptic icons. You're pretty sure you'd just pack an umbrella and call it a day. Here's something wild. Some traders believed a dimming of the salt carrier star signaled an approaching sandstorm, a warning from the desert spirits. You glance at it now, hoping it's still twinkling, but you're no meteorologist. You can barely tell if it's cloudy back home without checking your phone. Historians still debate how much of this was astronomy versus folklore, but it saved caravans from being buried in sand. The trader mutters something, gesturing at a faint haze on the horizon, and the caravan shifts course slightly, angling toward a rocky outcrop. You're handed a cloth to wrap around your face, and you fumble it, nearly turning yourself into a budget mummy. A young trader chuckles, and you're officially the caravan's comic relief. Again. The wind's getting pushier now, tugging at your cloak like an impatient kid. You huddle closer to your camel, its warmth a small comfort, though its smell reminds you of a gym locker left unchecked. The traders are tying down their goods, securing salt slabs and gold pouches with a precision that makes you jealous of their knot-tying skills. You try to help, looping a rope around a pack, but it slips loose, earning you a sigh from the trader. You're starting to think you'd be better off just holding the lanterns. The stars are still visible, but the haze is creeping in like someone smudging the sky with a giant eraser. You're moving faster now, the caravan's pace urgent but steady, the outcrop looming closer. The wind howls, a low moan that's more eerie than threatening, and you pull the cloth tighter around your face. The traders' voices are muffled, their focus on the stars unwavering, and you feel a strange calm despite the rising sand. You're not just dodging a storm. You're part of a dance with the desert, guided by the same stars that have kept these traders safe for centuries. You glance up, the weaver's loom still faintly visible, and let its light pull you forward, one sandy step at a time. You're hunkered down behind the rocky outcrop now, the wind's howl softening to a grumpy murmur, like the desert's throwing a tantrum but running out of steam. The stars are still there, peeking through the fading haze, the weaver's loom holding steady like a friend who's seen you through your worst karaoke nights. The air smells of damp stone and the faint musk of your camel, who's decided to park itself so close you're practically cuddling. You're still clutching that constellation-carved figurine, its edges smooth as a worry stone, and you're wondering if it's earned its keep by getting you through that sandstorm scare. You give your camel a tentative pat, and it snorts, probably reminding you it's still not your biggest fan. The caravan's settling in, traders checking their goods with the calm of people who've dodged worse storms than this. You notice a new figure among them, a Timbuktu scholar, his robes finer than the rough cloaks you're used to. He's pointing at the stars, his voice low and measured, explaining how Islamic astronomy shaped the Mali Empire's trade routes in the 13th century. You lean in, trying to catch his words over the rustle of palm fronds nearby, and it's like listening to a professor who actually makes you want to take notes. He traces the salt carrier with a stick, connecting it to calculations from Arabic star charts brought to Timbuktu by scholars centuries ago. You're impressed, but also wondering if you could have passed his class or if you'd be stuck in cosmic detention. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Mali traders mixed Islamic star names with local ones, calling the same star Al-Naham and Oasis Keeper, depending on who they were talking to. You glance up, trying to spot this dual-named star, but it's like trying to pick your favorite song on a playlist that's all bangers. Historians still debate how much Islamic astronomy influenced Mali's navigation versus their own oral traditions, but the blend was pure genius. The scholar hands you a flatbread, softer than the last one you nearly chipped a tooth on, and you nibble gratefully, the sesame seeds popping like tiny flavor fireworks. You offer a clumsy thanks, and he smiles, probably thinking you're the caravan's resident rookie. The traders are listening to the scholar now, their faces lit by a small fire that's more for light than warmth. You're trying to look attentive, but your legs are screaming from all this desert trekking, and you're half tempted to ask for a camelback ride. The scholar points to a star cluster, explaining how its angle helped traders time their journeys to avoid the hottest months. You nod, pretending you're not mentally converting angles to turn left at the shiny thing. A trader nudges you, offering a sip of something that smells like spiced tea, and you take a cautious sip. It's warm, sweet, and way better than that fermented millet disaster. You're starting to think you could get used to this desert scholar vibe. The fire's glow dances on the rocks, and the scholar's voice weaves through the night, steady and soothing. You're sinking into the moment, the stars above feeling less like a map and more like a story you're living. Your camel shifts, its warmth grounding you, and you realize you're not just following the caravan, you're part of its pulse, tied to the same starlit wisdom that's guided Mali's traders for centuries. The scholar's words fade into a soft hum, and you lean back against the rock, ready to let the stars carry you deeper into the night.
You're still leaning against the rocky outcrop, the scholar's voice fading into the desert's quiet hum, like a radio dial just out of tune. The stars are brighter now, the weaver's loom and salt carrier winking like they're in on a secret you're only half getting. The air's cool, laced with the faint scent of charred wood from the dying fire, and the ever-present musk of your camel, who's decided to nap so close you're practically its pillow. You're clutching that constellation-carved figurine, its smooth edges a familiar comfort, and you're wondering if it's secretly keeping score of how many times you've almost tripped today. Spoiler? It's a lot. The caravan's settling down, but the wiry lead trader pulls you aside, his grin conspiratorial, like he's about to let you in on the desert's best-kept gossip. He points to a group of traders you hadn't noticed before, women, their cloaks blending into the shadows, moving with the same quiet confidence as the men. In the 13th century Mali Empire, women traders, often overlooked, were masters of these starlit routes, navigating with the same skill and sometimes more cunning. You're a bit awestruck, watching one adjust a salt slab with a precision that makes your attempts at tying a rope look like toddler art. You try to nod respectfully, but you're pretty sure you just look like a bobblehead in a sandstorm. Here's something wild. Some women traders used unique star patterns passed down through female griots that men rarely learned. Constellations like the Weaver's Thread, a faint arc you're squinting to see. You tilt your head, hoping to spot it, but it's like trying to find your keys in a messy drawer. Good luck. Historians still debate how much these women shaped Mali's trade networks, but their star knowledge was a quiet powerhouse. The trader points to one woman, her hands deftly checking a camel's load, and whispers that her grandmother once outsmarted a rival caravan by faking a star chart in the sand. You're impressed, but also wondering if you could pull off that level of bluffing at your next Zoom meeting. You're handed a woven mat to sit on, and you sink into it, the sand underneath still warm from the day. The
The woman trader notices you, offering a handful of roasted cola nuts with a smile that says she knows you're out of your depth. You take one, bracing for that bitter kick, and it's like chewing a coffee bean with a grudge. You manage a weak grin, and she laughs, her voice soft but sharp, like she's already pegged you as the caravan's comic relief. The other traders are listening to her now, her voice low as she points to the weaver's thread, explaining its curve toward a northern market. You're trying to keep up, but your brain's stuck on how you once got lost in a mall parking lot. The night's deepening, the stars pulsing like they're breathing with you. The women traders move with a quiet grace, their silhouettes blending into the dunes, and you feel a tug of respect for these forgotten navigators. Your camel shifts, nudging you with a snout that smells like regret, and you pat it, hoping to stay on its good side. The caravan's hum is softer now, the stars guiding you forward, and you're sinking into the rhythm of this ancient trade route. You're not just a tag-along anymore. You're part of a story woven by starlight, carried by voices the desert never forgot. You're still nestled in the caravan's rhythm, the sand under your mat cool now, like the desert's decided to give you a break. The stars are steady overhead, the weaver's loom and weaver's thread glowing like they're whispering secrets only the women traders fully understand. The air carries a faint tang of sweat and the sweet aftertaste of those dates you're still savoring, a far cry from the cola nut trauma you're trying to forget. Your hands wrapped around that constellation-carved figurine, its edges practically part of you now, and you're wondering if it's judging your inability to keep up with these desert pros. Your camel's dozing nearby. It snores a low rumble that's oddly soothing, though you're still convinced it's dreaming of ways to ditch you. The caravan's moving again, slower now, as if the stars themselves are urging a gentler pace. You notice the wiry lead trader's shoulders slump slightly, his eyes scanning the horizon with a hint of nostalgia. He's talking about how the Mali Empire's trade routes, once the lifeblood of this desert, are starting to shift in the 14th century. New paths are opening up, coastal ports drawing merchants away from these starlit trails. You feel a pang, like you're watching a favorite coffee shop close down, replaced by some soulless chain. The Mali traders, though, they're still here, following the same stars, but you sense the change in the air, like a song fading out. Here's a curious fact. As trade shifted, some Mali traders etched star maps onto leather scrolls, hoping to preserve their routes for future generations. You imagine unrolling one, expecting a treasure map, only to find it's just a bunch of dots and lines that make your head spin. Historians still argue over why these scrolls didn't catch on. Maybe the desert winds were too good at erasing the old ways. You glance at the sand, half tempted to sketch your own star map, but your last attempt at sand art was a disaster, and you're not eager for another round of camel side-eye. The trader catches your gaze and offers a strip of dried mango, its sweetness a small comfort. You chew slowly, not trying to look like you're savoring it too much, but it's basically dessert heaven out here.
You're still trudging through the desert, the caravan's pace, now a gentle sway, like a lullaby you can feel in your bones. The stars above, the weaver's loom, the salt carrier, the weaver's thread seem softer, their light diffusing into the indigo sky like a sigh. The air's cool, brushing your skin with the faint scent of sand and fading campfire, and you're clutching that constellation-carved figurine so tightly it might as well be part of your hand. Your camel's plodding along, its grumbles quieter now, as if it's finally accepted you as a temporary annoyance. You give it a soft pat, half expecting it to sigh like an overworked coworker, but it just keeps walking, its warmth a steady anchor in the vast night. The traders are nearly silent now, their voices a low hum that blends with the desert's whisper.
You're nearing the end of this leg, a final stop under the stars, and there's a weight to the moment, like you're turning the last page of a book you don't want to finish. The Mali Empire's trade routes, once blazing with life, are fading, their starlit paths giving way to new ports and new stories. You look up, the last guide, star faintly visible, and feel a quiet ache, like you're saying goodbye to a friend you only just met. In the 14th century, these routes were still alive, but you sense their twilight, the way the sand seems to hold memories of countless caravans. Here's a final oddity. Some traders believed the stars sang to them, a faint hum, only heard in the deepest desert quiet. You strain your ears, hoping for a cosmic tune, but all you catch is the rustle of your cloak and a distant camel snort. Probably your camel, still unimpressed. Historians still debate whether this song was real, or just the desert's tricks on weary minds. But it makes you wonder. You're tempted to hum along, but your last attempt at singing earned you a camel glare. So you settle for listening to the night's soft pulse. The wiry lead trader, his beard catching the starlight, offers you a final date, its sweetness lingering like a farewell. You chew slowly, savoring it, and realize you're not just eating, you're holding on to this moment. The caravan stops at a low dune, the traders spreading mats under the open sky. You sink onto yours, the sand cool and forgiving, and let your eyes trace the stars one last time. The weaver's loom feels closer now, its light pooling around you, and you imagine the stories it's seen: griots, women traders, camels with attitude. You're not just a traveler anymore. You're woven into this tapestry, a fleeting thread in the Mali Empire's starlit legacy. The traders' voices fade, their silhouettes blurring into the dunes, and you feel the desert's calm settle over you, heavy and warm, like a blanket you never want to leave. Your breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the night, each inhale pulling you deeper into the quiet. The stars are softening, their edges smudging into the sky, and you're drifting, carried by the same light that guided traders across centuries. The figurine in your hand feels lighter, like it's ready to let you go. The desert's hum is all you hear now, a gentle pulse that cradles you, whispering that it's okay to rest. You're not lost. You're home, under a sky that's held 1,000 journeys, each one fading into the next. Close your eyes, let the stars blur, and sink into the peace of this endless night.